Okay, welcome. Today is our Relax into Health, Wealth, and Happiness meeting. Nice to see some of you. It's not intentional. Let's see. Funny joke, though. Funny to me. So, what can you expect from this meeting? Well, it depends on you. If you are sincere, then here's what is possible. And what is possible is that you can hear a truth that you can connect with internally. So the truth is something that must be a living reality. It's not something that if it's a theory, then it's of no real use to you. So you can receive a truth that you can connect with internally. And in that connection, then it's alive in you, and then you live that truth. And in living that truth, you discover the liberation of living the truth. It really is that simple. So, of course, the reason that most people will not receive that or have that realization is because most people are still insisting that they, whether known to them or unknown to them, insisting that they already have the answer. And so they come to a meeting like this and they're just comparing, they're sort of like sizing up what's being offered to see if how that compares to the thing they already know. Well, obviously that blocks that connection internally, because you're not receiving the truth, you're blocking it, you're holding on to the false within yourself. Now, this is something that I understand is a sensitive or delicate issue, because in this world there's a lot of deception, there's a lot of manipulation, and so we often feel justified in being guarded. And on the one hand, there's some truth to that, but unfortunately, the actual remedy to that is to connect with and live the truth, because living the truth is the light that shines on everything, that gives you perfect clarity so that you're able to recognize what is true and what is false. When you live under the delusion that you already have some answer, then you easily fall prey to all that is false, because you're unable to clearly differentiate between the false and the true. So how do we reconcile that? Because it would be, I think, inappropriate for me to suggest, well, trust me, I'm different than the rest, and you just let your guard down. What I think is necessary is that you need to look for yourself, because as I have sometimes or often pointed out, what is really happening here, it's not this person here who possesses some knowledge or power or whatever it is that you might imagine, and that I can transmit that or impart that. That's not what's going on. What's actually going on, and the only thing that can actually help is, and this is just another way of saying what I said from the beginning, is to understand that this is really a message from self to self. So that's, again, it's the same way of saying what I said at the beginning, which is that what is available here and what can happen is that you can receive the truth and you can connect with that internally, and then you can live that truth. So I want you to recognize that what I can share is only its only value is when you actually take a look and see for yourself. So you don't have to you don't have to receive anything externally. You don't have to take anything that I say as something that is to believe. Rather, you want to just look for yourself. That's all that's really necessary. And when you look for yourself, then naturally you connect with that truth, which is the truth that is the truth. It's not, the truth it can't be possessed by somebody and withheld from others. The truth is the truth. It is universal. It is omnipresent. So let's take a look at this thing that blocks people. As I said, it's this guardedness, it's this fear that there's something out there that's going to get me, something that's going to harm me. And so I've got all of my armor of all the things that I think I know. And what my invitation to you is just to simply see how profoundly painful that is. You know, can we just tell the truth about that it's really profoundly painful to lie to yourself that you've got anything figured out and that it's working out, because you don't have anything figured out and it's not working out. Because if you did have it figured out and it was working out, well, you wouldn't be here. And don't misunderstand that to think that means there's something wrong with you. No, the fact that you're here means that there's already some dawning of recognition of the truth, which is something that's very rare. I mean, in this world, you look out there and you'll see that 99+% of the population, it's very, it's much larger than 99%. It's like, gosh, I mean, if there's 1 in a million who's awake, that might be about right. So it's, if even, oh my goodness, probably less. So you're in very, you're already in, you've already kind of passed some of the preliminary tests of self-honesty. You have some dawning recognition. But I want to make that clear, because one of the other big problems that can block what's available is this comparison to others. And so we look at others out there and we say, oh, well, they seem to be all right. They seem to be happy. They seem to be successful. Look at all those people out there. And you want you to really take another look, because if you're comparing yourself to these other people, you're comparing yourself to a bunch of frauds. And you've got to see that that's true, because, hey, how do you present yourself? You see, you're lying just like the rest of them. It's just maybe you don't lie quite as well. But most of the people out there who you think are so happy and successful, they're just as miserable, if not more miserable than you are. And you can start to see that that's true. I mean, you don't have to take that on faith. You can actually start to observe all these people. I mean, obviously, you can't do that with celebrities who you can only glimpse to YouTube or whatever. But you can certainly, the people in your life who you think are so successful or happy or whatever, you can just start to see them in a more honest way. And you can recognize that if you stop lying and you stop deceiving yourself and you just observe what's really obvious, you'll see, no, they're profoundly unhappy. So don't compare yourself to other people. It's a tremendous waste of time. It's such a big obstacle. You might not see it right now, but I promise you, if you start to really observe that, you'll see what a big obstacle it is. You waste a tremendous amount of time comparing yourself to other people. So just give that up. That will help you tremendously, because all of that wasted time and energy then can be devoted to the truth. So now this business of thinking that you know something, I want you to see what that really is. What it really is it's a defense. And you can see that's true, because if you if somebody challenges that, if somebody calls you out on it, you will just see what your reaction to that is. You'll either grow hostile, defensive, or you'll feel rejected, dejected, depressed. All of these kinds of reactions are a giveaway that it was all false to begin with. It was just all pretense. So and by the way, you just see that most of you're just not very happy. You're not at ease. You feel anxious, worried about everything. And if you don't think that's true, then notice how interested you seem to be. It's all false, but just how interested you seem to be in gossip. All the gossip of all kinds. I mean, everything that passes for news, that's all gossip. Any talk about, political maneuverings and all that. It's all of that is, what passes for the nightly news is no different than a soap opera. Honestly, take a look at it. It's exactly the same. It's just the players wear suits instead of what they wear in a soap opera. But it's the same drama. It's the same, tugging at all of your emotions, and it's something that you want to see, that your attraction to that is entirely wrong. And when I say wrong, what I mean is harmful. Now, of course, you might say, "Oh, how could that be harmful?" It's harmless. It's no big deal. Whatever. If I get a little bit of a thrill from watching the news and getting a little bit excited about happenings in the world, which country's at war with which country, and who's doing what to whose currency, and whose police forces oppressing their people, and yada yada yada. If you say that's harmless, it's anything but harmless. So you want to see how profoundly harmful it is. And the reason it's harmful is because it gives you a false sense of life. So you start to mistake these cheap thrills for life. It's a terrible substitute for what is true. And the more acclimated you get to that, the more distorted your perception and thinking gets, and the harder it gets for you to recognize the authentic goodness of what is always available. And it gets to the point where we get so twisted that we get uncomfortable when there's just the silence of truth. So notice then that all these things that you think you know, and it's anything that you think you know, anything at all. You think you know what's good and what's bad and what's right and what's wrong and what's up and what's down, and who's your friend and who's your enemy, and what's pleasant and what's unpleasant, and what is truth and what's not truth, and what's spiritual and what's unspiritual, and all these things. You think you know all these things. And all of that only serves to keep you on that same addictive, vicious cycle of the hypocrisy and the drama of the soap opera and the nightly news and the gossip in your friend circle and so forth. So have I described you? If you don't think I've described you, then you're in more trouble than you think. So because the more spiritual you think you are, the more in trouble you are. So now, what is available what is actually available, which is what's true, which is what you can look to within yourself and connect with, is just simple goodness. It's not your idea of goodness. It's not something that you need to prove. You don't need to do anything to, look at how good I am. No, it is unconditional. It's always here. That should come as a relief. It should come as a huge relief. But you have to hear it. See, if you think you already know, if you say, "Oh well, I already know that. I've ever heard that." I know God is unconditional love. Tell me something I don't know. Now, then there's no chance that anybody can tell you something you don't know because you already know everything, don't you? Just see how that's true. No matter what anybody says, you already know. You already know that it's either right or wrong because you agree with it or you don't agree with it. And what I'm saying is just dispense with all of that. Now, here's where it starts to get really dangerous. Remember, I said, yeah, it's true. The millions of people out there who are all poised to take advantage of you. They want to see your vulnerability so that they can take advantage of you and they can manipulate you and take from you. So you're right to sense that. That's true. But then the problem is you mistake that here right now, just within yourself. See, nobody can actually harm you right now other than yourself. So, but you're so afraid just to let the guard down internally, just within yourself. I'm not selling you anything. I promise you, I've got nothing to sell. I don't want anything from you. And even if I had something to sell, even if I wanted something from you, that's not even like, if you just connect with the truth in yourself, you're free of that. But you see, this guardedness that you have, that you justify because you're trying to protect yourself from all that evil out there. Notice that actually you call it a fortress, but it's a prison. Because you are keeping yourself from yourself. So right now, just notice that in this moment, there's nothing to harm you right now. Really isn't anything to harm you right now. So just for a moment, could you let down the guard? Just within yourself, not to anything so-called externally, but just within yourself. You notice that hardness, it's like being frozen, like a block of ice. And the funny thing is that, a block of ice can be shattered, but can shatter water. So if you let that block of ice melt, then you connect with yourself and you realize something about yourself, which is that you are that flowing nature, that indivisible nature, that unshatterable nature that is true, that's actually here. So just let that guard down for a moment. Just let that block of ice melt for a moment. And here's a clue. It's in the heart, not in the head. Because in the head, the head is an ice making machine. It just keeps making blocks of ice. So when I say, sometimes I tell people, let go. They say, I don't know how to let go. Yeah, of course you don't know how to let go, because that's the ice making machine speaking. The ice making machine, anything that's said, it just spews out more ice. How can that let go? It can't. But you don't you don't depend upon the ice making machine. You're not. That just relax for a moment and notice in the heart. Just let that open. Just let that melt. Now you can't. There's no forgery of the melting of the heart. There is no way that can be counterfeit. That's not something that you can fake. You can't. If you have doubts about it, then you're back in the ice making machine. So stop doing that and just let yourself be here in the heart for a moment. And if you're wondering, what does he mean? What heart? This heart, that heart, the other heart? What the heart chakra? Is it the physical heart? Is it in the chest? Is it universal? Is it what Ramana was talking about? Is it like, oh my goodness, you're in the ice making machine. Let that go. That's all a false front trying to protect you from just melting. And if you're still stuck there, then you've got to go back to step one and tell the truth, which is your way doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It will never work. It will never, ever, ever work. You've got to see that. That's essential. If you don't see that, you'll just keep going back to the ice making machine, and you'll just keep wondering, why is it so hard? Because it's all ice. You're in the wrong place. But you can help yourself by just telling the truth, which is that way doesn't work. That way is an endless armoring, an endless misery, an endless anxiety, endless nervousness, constantly worrying, constantly craving some sort of false pleasure, and constantly trying to avoid some sort of pain. And that does not work. Unless what you want is misery. If you want misery, it works perfectly. Just keep on doing that. But you don't want misery. So you just have to be willing just to drop it for a moment. And then you see how easy it is. And when you just tune in, you notice, oh, it's already thawed. It is never frozen here. Already free. So let's review so we have to first recognize that we're unhappy. If we don't recognize we're unhappy, we'll never take the necessary step. If it's like, if you don't realize that you're burning in hell, and instead you're saying, oh, it's such a nice place here, so nice, this is great, everybody should come here, they're probably all envious of where I am, boy, this is fantastic. If you think, if you call hell heaven, you'll never take the necessary steps to go to heaven. You'll just stay in hell, because you'll just keep deceiving yourself and say, it's great, isn't it? Whoo, it's hot though, isn't it? So you have to first recognize that your way is not working. You have to recognize that you're unhappy. And then just don't take it personally. If you take it personally, that's just a way of chaining yourself to it. Then you say, oh, shame on me. And I can't admit that because comparing to other people, look at all those other happy people out there. If I let them know what a fraud I am, then, that would be bad. And I'll just keep pretending because I'll fake it until I can make it. You got to stop faking, be honest, and just tell the truth that you're not happy. And then instead of taking it personally, just acknowledge, oh, I'm not happy because I'm in hell. I'm not happy because I'm spewing out blocks of ice and they're hard and it hurts. And everywhere I look, it's more of the same because I'm in the ice making machine and it's just all that. And then I get into the wrong way of thinking and I say, well, that's all there is. So you have to just tell the truth about all that, which is your way doesn't work. It sucks. It's miserable. It's only going to be that. And there's no way you can rearrange it that it will be something fundamentally different than that. So now you need to open to something new. And that opening is not, it's something from within. It's something from without, but it's something from within. And if we focus on the without, then it feels scary. If we focus on the within, then maybe it doesn't seem so scary. So just notice that it's something within. But it starts by recognizing that I need something different. My way doesn't work. So then you start to open because you're highly motivated now. You have to have that motivation, which comes from telling the truth. That's why I emphasize it. It's not just to be a downer. It's because we need to be honest. Do you know how many people are suffering needlessly and will suffer for the rest of their lives needlessly simply because they're calling hell heaven? I can tell you that it's billions of people, that almost everybody. But it does not have to be so for you because you can see the truth and tell the truth. So don't believe the rest of them. Because everybody else is lying, don't believe the lies. Just because everybody else is saying, oh, don't we have it made? Isn't this great? Don't you go believe in that lie. You tell the truth, which is no, it's hell. People are, look at all the viciousness and violence and hatred and sarcasm. And it's all evidence, perfect evidence of the absolute misery of it. People are so profoundly unhappy. Don't fall for the lies that it's anything other than that. Now you can just tell the truth, and instead of it being personal, like, oh, you're failing. What do you mean you're failing? You're actually in a very in a very good position because you can actually tell the truth, which is that whole thing is just it's just wrong. That's it. It's not, you're not failing. It's just wrong. You are trying to take something. There's a phrase, polishing a turd, it seems fairly apt. How long are you going to keep doing that until you realize that it's a turd? Then you're going to stop doing that. But so that's what's necessary. You realize, oh, do you have to then denigrate turds? Do you have to say, oh, there shouldn't be turds? No, that's fine. That's what it is. That's how things happen. Everybody poops. I know somebody's going to say not them, and that's a problem. I get it, but whatever. Everybody poops. It's not a problem, but stop polishing the turds. That's the problem. So don't take it personally. Just tell the truth about it and see that you've been doing it wrong because you were told the wrong thing, because you're surrounded by a world that promotes the wrong thing and calls it the right thing. It's not your fault, but now it would be your fault if you continued. See, that's the thing. Oh, it's dangerous, isn't it? You come here, you get something like that, and now you're like, oh, I can't keep playing that stupid, painful game. Good. So now you have the truth. I've pointed it out. You remember, it's a participatory process. You have to actually engage and see the truth of it. It doesn't work just for the words to happen. This is not like that. This is not a Shaktipat. This is the direct revelation from self to self, just pointing out with clarity so that you can see what is, and then you have everything that you need to accept freedom. Because the thing is, freedom is always available, but not even God Almighty can force freedom upon you if you won't receive it. That's the truth. There is no power in this universe that can force freedom upon you. And it doesn't matter. You can, get down on your knees and pray every night, please God, give me freedom. But then you turn around and you reject it the next instant. That nothing can change then. So you have to see what's happening. You have to see that the game that you've been playing is one that is only going to result in more of the same. So you must see that, acknowledge that. Then, and I'm emphasizing this over and over and over because this is that important. Because otherwise, I know exactly what happens. I know it because I've experienced it, and I know it because I've heard, many of you have told me about it in various ways, about your experience of it. You have some glimpse of something, you glimpse freedom, but then you fall back into the old way. And then you scratch your head, oh, what did I do wrong? Why am I being punished? Maybe that wasn't true. Poor me. And you've got to just see what's actually happening. The freedom and peace that you so long for is here and now, and it is available. It is not at a distance. It's not something that you're going to earn in the future when you're a good boy or good girl. I say it that way because that's the programming. That is the programming. That's exactly the programming that we're operating from, because we were conditioned in that way. You just be a good boy or a good girl, and then we'll stop slapping you. No, you got to stop believing that. You've got to see that that's just pure wrongness and stop playing that game. So you got to see that every time this taste or glimpse that you have of freedom, it is authentic. But in and of itself, the glimpse is not going to do it. You have to choose it. And you will not choose it unless you get clear that the old way is absolutely wrong. It's unredeemable. There is no way that it will ever work to give you what you really want, because the old way is fundamentally based on lies. It's based on the lie that you are a separate person who is, what do we say? You're lacking something fundamental. And so you're then selling your soul day in and day out, saying, you just give me scraps and I'll give you a part of my soul. That's you might as well wear a sign that says that, like, selling parts of my soul for scraps, because that's the game that we've been taught to play. And I'm telling you, stop, because that makes you unhappy. So you got to see all the millions of ways that it plays out. Here's some examples. You say, I am incomplete, I'm lacking, I need someone else in order to be okay. I need somebody else's love and approval in order to be okay. Oh, now see, that's a game that everybody in this world is playing, more or less, except for the 1 in a million, maybe one in 10 million, maybe 1 in 100 million, who's not playing that game. And you can be one of those people. All you have to do is see the profound pain of playing that game. And now you're going to say, well, but that would be scary if I stop playing that game. And then all those people who I think I need, they'll stop loving me. Well, hey, here's a clue. If that is true, they don't love you. It's that simple. And anyway, you can never in any way do anything with anybody else's love except for sell your soul for it. But you don't get anything back. That's the thing. You don't get anything of real value in exchange. All you've done is you've just given away part of your soul. So you got to see that the only true love, now it's right that you want love. It's not wrong to want love, because there's something very truthful about that. But you've got to see that you can never get love externally. It will never work. Never. Have you ever in your life, you got to look and see the truth of it. Have you ever gotten love externally? You haven't. It's an impossibility. All you've done is play a false game. And look how painful it is. And that game it's all transactional. I'll be a good boy or a good girl, and you'll pretend like you love me so long as I don't violate the terms of our agreement, in which case you'll become suddenly hostile. And then I'll be terrified, and then I'll conform again to the rules of our game that's painful. And this the other way around. You do things the way that I want you to do, and so long as you do that, we'll pretend like I love you. But if you step out of line in any way, I'll become suddenly hostile. All trying to manipulate one another. For what purpose? So that we can avoid seeing the profound discomfort of the lies. So then, okay, what if we just let that all go? And you say, oh, that's terrifying. Yeah, it's terrifying to the lie that you've mistaken yourself to be. But we have to go back to step one, which is you got to see that lie is only pain. You can't, no matter how much you polish a turd, it will remain a turd. It's never going to be anything else. And so if you keep playing that game, you're going to keep getting the same pain. And then you're going to keep saying, why do I hurt so much? The answer is because you are hurting yourself. That is a game of self-harm. Now, again, the desire for love is an authentic desire. It's a very good desire, but you have to see what love is and where it exists. It doesn't exist outside. It cannot exist outside. Nobody can give you love. Your spouse can't give you love. Children can't give you love. Parents can't give you love. God can't even give you love. Nothing external can give you love. There's no, guru can't give you love. Nobody can give you love. The only love that is available is the supreme universal love of oneness, which is what you are. But when you're in this ice making machine, spewing out all of this cold, frozen hardness that you call goodness, you say, oh, here's love, another chunk of ice, here's some love. Then as long as you're doing that, then you don't actually allow yourself into the tenderness so that you can connect with that truth in yourself. So in order to allow that, you have to actually stand alone. And this is the thing that most people will go to their grave avoiding. Don't want to be alone. And I'm not talking about just being alone for an evening. I'm talking about actually being alone. And to be alone always. Now your mind will say, oh, but that sounds so awful. Okay, let's go back to step one. See, you think you know something, but what you think you know is only causing you pain. What you think you know is how you construct your life, which is a life of misery, a life of lies. It's an igloo. And I don't mean, you know, to the Inuit who have traditionally lived in igloos. I mean, no offense. I'm sure it's a lovely way to live, but not a way for you to live inside your own self. So you've got to see that this idea, how hard you work to defend falseness. You say, oh, to be alone would be awful. Incorrect. To be alone, truly alone, means to connect with universal love. But if you're not willing to do that, if instead you keep clinging to all that's false, calling it good, calling it true, then you will continue to be unhappy because you're cutting yourself off from the one love that's actually real, the one love that you can actually experience, the one love that is really available to you. And by the way, guess what? It happens to be infinite, eternal, universal. So, it's not like it's a bad deal. The other thing is the bad deal, but you call it a good deal. So that's why, again, why I emphasize all the negative. Because can you see how quickly you go back to the old way, clinging to it, thinking that's good somehow? Do you see how hard you work to defend the false and you call it true? And it's baseless. Again, if you are serious about wanting true freedom, true peace, true happiness, and by the way, true connection, how's that for a paradox? Then you must be willing to be alone. And you say, well, for how long? For a minute, for an hour? Oh, isn't that a good one? I love that one. It's like, how long? Like, you're already expecting that you're like, I already know the answer. My way is right and this way is stupid. So, all right, to humor this guy, I'll go along. But how long do I have to do it to prove that it won't work? Well, of course it won't work then, because you're not actually willing to do it. So when you see the lies, when that kind of lie comes up, you've got to see it. You've got to start to call it out. What we're talking about is eternal peace, eternal happiness, eternal life. You don't have a life now. Do you see that? Like, this is what you call your life. Would you wish that upon your worst enemy? Really? You know the hell that is your own mind. You know how it gives you no rest. You know the torture that it is constantly doing to you. You wouldn't wish that on anybody. So stop calling it good. And stop taking advice from it. Instead, just be willing to let the guard down for a moment and just connect to the heart. And notice that it's already free. You don't have to, this is not like this is not a religion. It is definitely not a religion. Please understand. Because a religion is promising something in the future. This is not that. This is not that you must do these things and then in the future you will discover freedom, because that's like a carrot on a stick. You'll never arrive there. It will always be out in front of you. That's false. What I'm saying is, prove it to yourself now. Instead of clinging to the old way, which we've already exhaustively, unless you want to go through it again, exhaustively looked and seen just that it's lies and misery only. So unless you want to keep clinging to that, then please just allow yourself one moment right now to sincerely, remember that word, that's the word that I used at the beginning, because I said what's available. It's available if you're sincere. If you're sincere, then you see the truth of what's been pointed out, and then you see, oh yeah, the one thing that I honestly haven't done, the one thing is I haven't been completely alone. I haven't just allowed complete aloneness. Now, this complete aloneness, which is what I'm talking about, the melting in the heart. What I'm talking about is that you don't cling to anything. It's not just about being, like alone in a room. Plenty of people do these things where they rent a cabin at a retreat center for a week or a month, and they get like meals slipped under the door, so they're see nobody for all that time, and then they go back to their life and it's the same as ever. So that's not what I'm talking about. That's not the aloneness that I'm talking about. The aloneness that I'm talking about it does not depend upon any external circumstances. You could be externally alone or externally with millions of people. The aloneness I'm talking about is internally. So see how quick you are to reach for and grasp for something to prevent this aloneness. See anything, you'll grasp at anything. Insane thoughts, pointless thoughts, old memories come up. You're like, oh my goodness, crazy stuff. Like you haven't thought about some event for 20 years. And when you're actually starting to be alone, it will come up and you're just like, oh yeah, I feel bad. Oh, I'm so angry. Oh, I'm so hurt. And you like churn on this stuff. Be alone. Be completely alone. And to really be alone means even you have to see the expectations that are there. You've got expectations. These expectations are things that you think like to be alone means it's going to be hard. So then you're like, oh, hard, it's hard. Or to be alone is going to be really painful. So, oh, it's so painful. I've got to bear it being alone. Or whatever other ideas you have, you see. So they're kind of subtle until you see them, and then they're not so subtle, but they'll slide under the radar, and you've got to be alert so that you see them, and then start to notice what is the truth about it. It's none of those things. It's none of the things that you think it is. It's not hard. It's not painful. It's not unpleasant. It's not boring. It's not any of those things. It's not exciting. It's not like whiz bang fireworks, so-called spiritual experience. It's none of those things. It's so much more than any of that. It's a true peace. It's really honestly true peace. It's like nothing can touch this. You've got to see that. So let the things come, because they're going to come. You don't need to try to like build another fortress. To melt, to be alone doesn't mean you have to push anything away. To melt and be alone means that you just let all of it be. You're on a different level, different dimension. The same as like if you had a big fire, does the fire burn the space? Is the space touched by the fire? Is it harmed in any way? The answer is no. In case you didn't know. That's what the space of the self, the space of universal unconditional love. That space is already pure. It's not untouched. It cannot be harmed in any way. It can never be other than this aloneness. So don't make any unnecessary effort trying to keep anything away. Let it all be. You just notice that at the deeper level, the truth is you are alone. And this aloneness is the fulfillment of all of your desires. Really, honestly. You see, all of the things that you were doing wrongly before, chasing after love, approval, uh, wealth, success, status, health, all those things you were chasing after, immortality, they're already fulfilled here. It's not that none of the things that we thought were necessary as intermediates have to be there. There's no dependency. It's already the case. There's already fulfillment here. There's already pure health, wealth, and happiness, not dependent on any external conditions, not dependent on any form, not dependent on any feeling, thought, or anything else. Just notice that's here. And then whatever thoughts come, that eventually come, because the doubts will arise, and it's like, oh, well, what do I do with this? Or what does it depend upon? What were the steps? Did I do that thing first and then the other thing, and then it happened? Was it that experience? Was it that sensation? How do I get it again? What does this mean for my life? Should I get a divorce? Should I move to the Caribbean? Should I quit my job? Should I, whatever. All those are like, see, all of a sudden you're like, maybe I won't be alone anymore. No, you just be alone. Be alone. And then you don't need to reject anything, and you don't need to chase after anything. So like all those thoughts about maybe I should do this, maybe I should do that, maybe I should, forget about it. You simply, like, whatever comes unbidden, that whatever goes, fine. You want to know, well, how should I behave? What should I say? How should I? Just you just see. Yeah, that's all. You just start to notice that you can start to actually view life from the source of life. Then you realize that you don't need any of these, that you don't depend on any of these things. So what does it matter? It doesn't matter. So you do whatever you do. You have a job, you do the job. You're married, great. So you, like, whatever. Why see all of the thoughts about, but what do I do? What do I do? Should I do this? Should I do that? It's like, what, where do they come from? Those are all just more things trying to protect something. And all of those things are what built that miserable prison. Now that you've realized that you're already out of that prison, you're already free. Don't get back into the prison. Don't construct it again. Don't give any importance to any of that. Just see you have this power here is already true. You don't need to do anything to earn it. You're not going to get it in the future. You can't lose it. Anything that can be lost, it's fine. Let it be lost. because everything that comes will go. Everything that has a beginning has an end. So celebrate that. Celebrate it all. Let there be beginnings and endings. Let there be ups and downs. And you just keep noticing that you get to choose where you're living from. You can live from the ice making machine, constantly building the ice fortress, with all the things you think you know, and all the things you need to do, and all the things that you need to achieve, and all the things you need to protect, and all that. Or you can just live from this already open heart and recognize that you already exist transcendent of all of that. It's that simple. Honestly, it is that simple. What else do you need? All the rest of it is not necessary, unless it is, but it's only necessary, as we've talked about, I think I don't think in this meeting, but maybe in the journey principles one, we talked about how, like Ramana Maharshi said that the direct path of self-knowledge is ultimately the only real thing. It's the only real deal. Like everything else is not it. So, and it must be said that this direct path is only for those who are mature. So if there's a lack of maturity, then we do the other things that lead to the maturity. And once there's the maturity, then we have this direct realization. So the other thing's fine, so long as there's a lack of maturity. And don't take that the wrong way and be offended by it. I mean, it's just like, okay, so I'm not perfectly mature. Okay, big deal. But it'll be like, the strawberry being distraught and taking offense because it's not ripe yet. It happens. You just be patient. But so maybe other things are necessary for that maturity, but then we need to do those things in the right spirit. So everything that you do it in the spirit of, like, to have the maturity. That's all. Just do it knowing that I'm a ripening strawberry, and everything, all of these activities are only to help the ripening. And then when it's perfectly ripe and juicy and delicious, and then all of that is gone, and there's only, like at the moment before of ripeness, there's a strawberry and there's me. Once I eat the strawberry, there's only one. So this direct self-knowledge is to recognize there's only one, and allow yourself to be that only one. And everything that appears to be other than that, you let that come and go, and then it's seen and directly known to be only one. And if any of that's not clear, then resort to the things that help facilitate the maturity. And a big one of those is just being honest. Really, just be honest. Just tell the truth. Just keep seeing that all these ways that I keep clinging to, they're so painful, and they'll never result in anything else. No matter how much I chase after love from other people, it will never fulfill me. I'll never get love from anybody else. And all it will do is lead to more anxiety. If I'm chasing for abundance outside of myself, I will never actually experience the true abundance. All I'll do is be selling my soul for scraps, and I'll be in pain and feeling anxious and nervous because I'm like, where's my abundance? It's over there. I got to chase after it, got to do more. So you want to see how painful that is, and then you just rest or relax into health, wealth, and happiness, which is who you are. So that's it for today. Thank you, everybody. Blessings to you all. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.